Hi, my name is Rebecca Jackson, and today I'm going to be reviewing the BMI Plus challenge. So, in this challenge, the part we had for on our own was step 10, creating a custom BMI table. It says to add rows to an existing HTML table to show a user's current height and weight, plus or minus up to 10 pounds, and the corresponding BMI calculations. We were also asked to indicate if the score was underweight, healthy, overweight, or obese. We're given an example table here. And this is what we start with. This might seem like a big step to tackle all at once, starting from nothing and generating a whole table with a loop. For me, it's helpful first to look at these four columns in the table, because we know each of those is going to need to be a variable. So jumping into the code, they start us off with a prompt, which pops up when you refresh the page. So they've already got these two variables created for us, as well as parsing the answer from those variables. So we already have height and weight. We know for certain we'll need BMI and BMI category. You can see in my solution I have more variables than that, but if you just start with height, weight, BMI, and category, and get yourself to console.log those variables out, you'll be in a good place. These other variables you might not discover until you're deeper into figuring out the loop or creating the syntax for the page, and that's okay, because you can come back here and add more. So since we're looking at them, we declare all these variables before the loop. My table row is where we will store the HTML for each table row before appending it onto the table that's already on the page for us. We'll do that using the table's ID. BMI to fixed we'll be using to change the long decimal the BMI is to a string with 1 decimal point. To that note, BMI float is where we're going to switch back so that we have a decimal with 1 decimal point, but it counts as a number. It sounds confusing, but a lot of this is easier once you've worked through the loop and come back and realize, oh, I need this many variables just to figure out the BMI. The BMI category is exactly what it sounds like. It's where we'll be storing what category their BMI falls into. And we personally are using the plain BMI variable to store the formula. So we establish a for loop. We start by creating our counter variable, I, and we set it equal to the weight minus 10. Then we say with every step of the loop, we say that the loop will continue so long as the counter is less than or equal to the weight plus 10. So basically we're saying start 10 pounds under the weight, end once you're 10 pounds above the weight. And then with each step, we add 1 to our counter variable. They gave us the formula, so you can see right here, we just have it written again. We used toFixed and we store it in our toFixed variable in order to round the number. And then we parse float it into the float version of our variable, so that way we have a number with 1 decimal point. This is really hard. It's not a lot of lines of code, but just wrapping your head around getting this right is really hard. If you got to this step, this would be a great time to console.log out all these BMI variables and make sure like the conversions and storage happened correctly. Now comes the part where we determine the category. So they gave us all of this information. We just need to phrase it in an if statement. So in each if and else if, we have our conditional statement, and then we reassign that variable we made earlier according to what the BMI float variable is. The instructions had also mentioned that we should bold the weight the user entered. So even though we're going 10 pounds below and 10 pounds above that weight, we want to show their weight. So we create a new variable here. We create this and set it equal to null at first. Then just on every loop, we check if the current loop is equal to the original weight. If it is, then we use that new variable we created and store in it the value, the weight. Otherwise, we just store the counter number. This works when we create the HTML for the table row because we've now created some dynamic HTML in the sense that the weight will just be a number if it's not their weight, or the weight will be bolded if it is the user's entered weight. Make sure with my table row, you're careful to concatenate and open and close all of the table row and table column brackets. Finally, we finish up by appending that table row to the table with an ID of output. So just running the default values, this is what your solution should look like. I hope this video was helpful, and I look forward to talking to you all next week.